Hey guys, welcome back for another video. We got a good one prepared today. This is going to be our Week 8 college football picks and predictions. We are going to go over every single top 25 team and predict who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what the final score will be. We'll also take a look at the money lines, the spreads, and the over-unders, and we're going to be doing it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. If you have any comments about these games or any other ones, drop them below and I will respond. Every week we go over every single college football game, and we also do the same thing for every NFL game as well. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're a sports fan, if you're a football fan, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So let's go ahead and get started because we have a lot of top 25 matchups to take a look at. The very first one we have kicking things off is one of our Friday night games. We actually have 2 Friday night games this weekend for top 25 games. On Fox at 8 p.m., we have number 2 Oregon Ducks coming off of beating the Buckeyes and moving up to the number 2 spot. They'll be playing the 1-5 Purdue Boilermakers, who's probably the worst team in the Big Ten right now. Coming into this game, the Ducks have a 95% chance to win this game. They are 27.5-point favorites. The over-under here is massive. It is 61.5. Looking at Ducks, obviously they're the number 1 team. We saw a lot of improvement on the offensive line. They finally gave Dylan Gabriel time to vertically push the ball downfield. They are averaging 34.5 points a game. They are only giving up 19.3 points a game. For Purdue, they're averaging 23.7. They're giving up 39 points. So it's easy to say there's going to be a lot of points scored for the Ducks. There's going to be opportunities to score. But with the Big Ten Conference play coming up, there's no point to leave the starters in. This game is going to be in hand by the end of the first half. The Ducks are loaded. Gabriel, James, Johnson, Stewart. I have Oregon cruising to an easy win here, taking this one 42-16. The next Friday night game we're looking at on ESPN at 10:15, it's a late one. We have the 3-3 Oklahoma State Cowboys. They'll be playing number 12 BYU 6-0. Right now, BYU has a 61.3% chance to win this game. They are 9.5-point favorites. Pretty big spread for our conference game here. The over-under is 52.5. Oklahoma State has fallen off the rails this season. They did start out the year top 15, slowly fell out of the poll, but they're coming off the bye week right now. They have a lot to work on. They have a quarterback situation to work on. They have a running back situation. They have Ollie Gordon, the Doak Award reigning champ, 1,700 yards, 21 touchdowns. Right now, he only has 384 rushing yards halfway through the season. They need to fix the offensive line. They need to open up the run game. Right now, they're averaging 30.2, throwing for 302.8, but only 91 yards on the ground every game. That's not going to cut it, especially with the running game that you had last season. They need to get back to that, and they're giving up 27.2 points a game for BYU. Right now, they are at the top of the Big 12. Them and Iowa State, they're averaging 34.3, throwing for 254, running for 140, and they're giving up 16.3 points a game, a top 20 defense right now. Retzlaff's going off at the quarterback position. He is also mobile. They have Roberts. I have BYU winning a close one, but this is a potential upset type game here. Be on the lookout for a potential upset, but I have BYU taking it closely, 28-27. And we're now moving on to our Saturday slate of games. We have a good one kicking things off on ABC at 12 p.m. 6, Miami 6-0. They'll be playing 4-2 Louisville Cardinals. Right now, this is a tough game. This is a potential upset type game. It's a 50-50. Miami has a 55.3% chance to win this game. They are 4.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 61.5. Last time these two teams played, Louisville did win it. They did take the Schnellenberger Trophy. So Miami's trying to get some revenge here, but Miami has a lot to work on. Both teams coming off bye, both rested. Mario Cristobal has yet to win a game at Miami coming off the bye, so there is the bye week curse. But right now, Miami is cruising. They have a top 5 offense. They average 47.7 points a game, throw for 410, run for 183. They have a top 30 defense, giving up 18.8 points per game and only 89.7 yards on the ground. This team is loaded. They have Ward. He's closing in on 2,300 yards. He already has 21 passing touchdowns. They have Martinez, Fletcher, Lyle. They have Restrepo, Arroyo, George, Horton, Williams. So many weapons on this team. They have a top 10 offensive line. They have a top 10 defensive line, and they're top 10 in sacks. Looking at Louisville, Tyler Show, though, he's having a great season, closing in on 1,700 yards, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks. They're averaging 36.2. They pass for 303.5. They run for 170.5, and they also have a top 30 defense, giving up 19.7. These teams are really good. What could be the difference maker here is Louisville has the 70th pass defense. Miami loves to throw the ball. Look for another big game from Ward. He has yet to throw under 300 yards. This game could go either way, could come down to the final possession. Is a potential upset game, but I have Miami pulling it out, winning it in a closer one till Miami does their fourth quarter heroics, and they win it 33-27. And another one that you don't want to sleep on at 12 p.m. on Fox, 5-1 Nebraska Cornhuskers playing number 16 Indiana 6-0. Right now, the Hoosiers have a 76.5% chance to win this game. They are 6.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 50.5. This is a game that's very evenly matched. Both teams have elite-level defensive play. Right now, Nebraska comes in. They have Dylan Raiola. He has 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. They're averaging 28 points a game, throwing for 259.5, running for 136.7, and a top 10 defense, only giving up 11.3 points per game, only 84.2 on the ground. It's going to be hard to run on Matt Rule's squad. They are disciplined, they are deep, they are a line of scrimmage team, but Indiana can move the ball. They're averaging 47.5. They throw for 321.2. They run for 200.3. They have 530 yards of offense every game, and they are also only giving up 14.8 and 83.8 on the ground. These teams are built the same on the lines. They both want to win the line of scrimmage battle. This is going to be a trench warfare game. Who dominates? I would in no way be surprised if Nebraska steals this game. They can run it. They can throw it when they need to, and they have the defense. But Indiana, this seems like this is their year, but they are due for the upset. It could potentially come this weekend, but I have them pulling it out, winning this one 27-23. Our next game is an ACC matchup on the ACC network at 12 p.m. We have 4-2 Virginia, who's actually having a pretty decent year so far. They'll be playing number 10 Clemson Tigers, 5-1. Clemson fully rested right now. Clemson has an 89.1% chance to win this game. They are 21.5-point favorites. I hate those massive spreads on in-conference games. The over-under here is 57.5. Looking at Virginia, they're averaging 27.5 points per game, throwing for 271.2, so they can vertically push the ball. They're running for 174.8, so they also have a lot of skills running the ball. They're averaging almost 460 yards of offense per game. Their defense is giving up 22 points per game. Clemson, since they were curb stomped by the Georgia Bulldogs, has been completely rolling on the offensive and the defensive side. Right now, they're averaging 41 points a game. They look much better year 2 under Riley, so props to Dabo there for getting this team back on track so far through the season. They're throwing for 287.7. They're running for 200.8. That's what Dabo wanted when he originally hired Riley 2 seasons ago. They are moving the ball, vertically pushing it down the field, but their run game has also gotten going. They have Cade Klubnik. He's throwing it. He's running it. He is closing in on 1,600 yards. They have Moffa at running back, closing in on 700 yards. Williams at wide receiver, closing in on 400 yards. And their defense is getting better every week. They have the number 7 overall roster. They are giving up 21.7 points per game. That number has consistently been dropping every single week. They're getting better and better and better as their competition is getting more difficult. I have Clemson winning this one 38-17. Now let's look at some SEC games on ESPN at 12 p.m. We have 2-4 Auburn. Hugh Freeze really needs to right the ship here. He cannot afford to drop to 2-5 in his second season. They'll be playing number 19, Missouri, who comes in at 5-1. Right now, Missouri has a 67.9% chance to win this game. They are 4.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 51.5. Looking at Auburn, all their issues stem to the offensive side. Same issues as last season. Quarterback play. Peyton, no matter who suits up at the quarterback position, they're having issues getting first downs and scoring points since they've been in SEC competition. They're averaging 30 per game, 293.8 through the air, 165 on the ground. Solid defensive play, just like last year, though, giving up 20.8 points per game. Missouri, they have a top 30 offense, a top 30 defense. They are averaging 33.5 points per game. They throw for 255.3. They run for 187.5. Very balanced there, and their defense is elite right now, giving up 15.3 points per game. This is going to be a game that is going to be decided by physicality. Cook closing in on 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. Mizzou has the better playmakers. Cook, Noel, Weiss Jr., Burden. They should be able to squeak this game out, but you never want to sleep on Auburn, even though their offense is bad. They have a good defense. Defense does travel, but I have Missouri winning this one 27-20. Our next matchup at 12 p.m. on ESPN2, 3-3 East Carolina versus welcome to the top 25, number 23 Army, undefeated 6-0. Right now, Army has an 86.9% chance to win this game, 15.5-point favorites. Over under here is 51.5 for Carolina. They're not necessarily bad, but they don't necessarily do any one thing good. They come in, they're averaging 26.5. They can push the ball passing-wise. They average 274 yards to the air, 125 on the ground. Their defense is giving up 24.7. They have Jake Garcia at the quarterback. He has been around. They have Harris running the ball, closing in on 400 yards. But Army, they run the triple option. They suck up clock. They're going to have the ball here for 35 to 40 minutes. They're not going to give Carolina very many possessions. Like I said, they're going to keep the ball on the ground and just drain that clock. They're averaging 39.7, throwing for 92.8, running for 369.8, the number one rush team in the nation, and they only give up 9.8 points per game. That is elite right there. Daily closing on 500 yards passing, almost 800 yards on the ground, and they have Reynolds catching things. I have Army winning this one. It might be close first quarter. That's about it, but they will seize it. They win it 38-18. The next game is one of our games of the weekend at 3:30 p.m. on ABC. Number 7 Alabama 5-1. They'll be playing number 11 Tennessee 5-1. Both teams 5-1. Both teams trying to give the other team their second loss. Both teams potentially on the cusp of getting their second SEC loss, which could place them out of the running for the SEC championship. So there is a lot that is riding on this game. Right now, Bama's a slight favorite, 53.8% chance to win this game. 3-point favorite. Over under here is 56.5. Both teams come limping into this game. They both have good records, but both teams have played pretty sloppy. Bama, they gave up a lot of points to Georgia. They got beat down by Vanderbilt on both lines of scrimmage, and then they barely beat South Carolina last weekend. Tennessee has yet in the last 3 SEC games to score over 25 points. That's after having the number one offense. Right now, Bama, they average 41.7. They throw for 279.7. They run for 170.9. And their defense is un-Saban-like this season, giving up 20.8 points per game. Tennessee, they average 42.2. They throw for 247.2. They run for 246.2. Probably the most balanced offense in the country. And their defense is elite top 10, giving up 10.7 points per game. That's been their saving grace so far this season. And they're top 10 in sacks. Bama, they're led by Milroe, closing in on 1,500 yards. Miller at running back. Ryan Williams, one of the best freshmen there is. And then Tennessee, Nico. They have Samson, Thornton Jr., Squirrel White. The big issue for Alabama is they have virtually no running game. Milroe's been the main running weapon. They need to develop a running game. They need a 1,000-yard back. Tennessee, Nico has to perform better under pressure. This game could go either way. It's going to be close. I have Bama pulling it out fourth quarter, winning it 30-28. I could easily see Tennessee getting their offense back on track this game. They're due at some point to open things up and hit 30. But I'm going to go with Bama as of right now. Our next game at 3:30 on ESPN, number 12 Notre Dame 5-1 playing 5-2 Georgia Tech. Do not sleep on Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's a very balanced team, a very good team. Right now, Notre Dame is a heavy favorite. They have an 83.3% chance to win this game. 12.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 48.5. Notre Dame's saving grace is they have a top 10 defense. They get after it. They get a lot of pressure. They average 35.2 points per game. They throw for 193.7. They run for 216.5. But it's a top 10 defense, only giving up 11.7 points per game. Riley Leonard cannot throw the ball. I've said that since he was at Duke. But he can run the ball. So adapt your running game. Keep the ball on the ground. Suck up clock. You have Leonard. You have Love. They can both run the ball. You have a pretty good line. Right now, Freeman, Denbrock, Golden, great coaching staff. Run the ball. Georgia Tech, they're averaging 32.9. They throw for 240.3. They run for 204.4. They are averaging almost 450 yards of offense per game, and their defense is giving up 21.4. They have Haynes King, the leading touchdown passer in the ACC last season. He's closing on 600 yards. They have Haynes at running back, the leading rusher last season in the ACC. They love to run the ball. They have Rutherford closing in on 600 yards, catching the ball. Lots of weapons here. They're at home. But I have Notre Dame pulling this one out in a close one, getting a turnover when they need it, winning in this one 30-24. And this next game is going to be a close one at 3:30 p.m. on CBS. Number 24, Michigan, 4-2, the defending national champs, versus number 22, the Fighting Illini, 5-1. Right now, Michigan has a 59.6% chance to win this game. They are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 43.5. This is Sean Moore versus Brett Bielema. This is going to be a physical line of scrimmage game. Both teams play the exact same style of ball. Both teams love to run up, get physical with you for 4 straight quarters. Right now, Michigan, they've been running with 3 quarterbacks. Hudnall, Orji, Warren. Neither of them are necessarily very good, but each one has a different skill set. They average 23.5 points a game. That is awful. They cannot throw the ball. They average 122 through the air, 191.3 on the ground. They have Mullings. They have Edwards. Quarterback, who knows who's going to play at some point. You might see all three. They do have Loveland, the best tight end in the nation, but no one can get him the ball. They have a defense giving up 22.3. For the Fighting Illini, they average 31, 262.7 through the air, 139.5 on the ground, and their defense is giving up 20. One of the difference makers here could be Altmaier. Right now, he's having a really good season passing, closing on 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 picks. I have upset. I have the Fighting Illini winning this one in the end. I have them winning it 23-20, but Michigan could easily win this game. This is going to be a fun one, though, because both teams want to do the same thing. Like I said, let's get physical over 4 quarters. Who's going to win that match? Who's going to make the passes when you have to on the third down? Our next one is another Service Academy. Welcome to the top 25. Number 25, Navy. They'll be playing Charlotte 3-3. They'll be playing Navy 5-0. Number 25. Right now, Navy has an 82% chance to win this game. They are 17-point favorites. The over-under here is 54.5. Looking at Charlotte, they give up 24 points a game. Sorry, they average 24 points a game. They give up 31.7 points per game. That's going to be rough. They are giving up 270 through the air, 182 on the ground. Navy is an interesting team because they run it as well as anyone, but they actually throw the ball this season. They have Horvath coming in at the quarterback position, almost 800 passing yards, almost 600 rushing yards. They average 43.6. They pass for 173.8. They run for 295.6, and their defense is only giving up 20.2. I have Navy cruising through this game, winning this one 32-17. Our next matchup is an SEC game at 4:15 on the SEC Network. Number 14, Texas A&M Aggies, 5-1. They'll be playing 1-5 Mississippi State, who's probably the worst team in the SEC, but they're coming off of putting up 31 on Georgia right now, so they might be feeling kind of hot. Right now, the Aggies, Mike Elko is rebuilding this team. They are getting physical. They are winning the lines of scrimmage. Connor Wegman, Reed, really doesn't matter who they roll out at quarterback the whole season. This team is really good, and they can run the ball physically. They average 31 a game. They pass for 188.5. They're running for 232.3, one of the best running teams in the nation, and their defense is elite this season, only giving up 16.7 points per game. They have Reed, Wegman, Moss closing in on 700 yards. They have Thomas. Mississippi State, obviously, they are going to be led by Shapen at the quarterback position. He's closing in on 1,000 yards. They have Daniels. They have Coleman Jr. They have some weapons there, but it's going to be hard stopping anyone. They average 28 points a game, but they're giving up 33.2 points per game, 500 yards on defense given up every single game. The Aggies are going to keep this ball on the ground. They are going to line up. They're going to run it right down Mississippi State's throat. I have the Aggies winning this one 34-17. The next matchup is another SEC matchup at 7 p.m. on ESPN. Number 8, LSU, 5-1. Welcome to the top 10. They'll be playing 4-2 Arkansas. Do not sleep on Sam Pittman's Arkansas team. When they played Tennessee, I said Bobby Petrino is dialing up some great plays this season, but LSU can vertically move the ball. They have Garrett Nussmeier closing on 2,000 yards. They have Durham. They have Lacey closing in on 500 yards. They are the favorites, 54.2% chance to win this game, 2.5-point favorites. That's a close conference game. The over-under here is 55.5. There's going to be a lot of points scored here. Right now, LSU, they average 34.2. One of the best passing teams, 341 through the air, 123.3 on the ground. Their defense much better under Blake Baker, giving up 22.3 points a game. For Arkansas, they have Sam Pittman. They have Bobby Petrino. They're averaging 33 points a game. Green is having a great season passing the ball, running the ball. He is banged up. He does have a lot of turnovers. If he plays a clean game here, they can keep this game close. They can win this game. They have Jackson closing on 600 yards rushing. They have Armstrong closing in on 600 yards receiving. They pass for 301. They run for 199.5. That's 500 yards a game in SEC play, and a great defense giving up 19.2. I have LSU ultimately pulling this one out, winning at 34-28. It's going to be very close. Keep your eye on it. Arkansas can win this game. The next matchup we're looking at is a Big 12 game at 7:30 p.m. on Fox. You have number 17, Kansas State, 5-1, coming off of the road trip, going to Colorado, beating them. Now they have to go to West Virginia. That road trip might catch up with them. They could easily be wore out, so keep your eye on this game. West Virginia's 3-3. Right now, Kansas State has a 56.6% chance to win this game. 3-point favorites. Over under here is 55.5. Kansas State is led by Avery Johnson. He does have some turnovers, but when he's on, he's on. They make the passes when they need it, and he's a very mobile quarterback who runs with purpose. He's closing in on 1,100 yards. They have DJ Giddens, a top 5 running back in the nation. Halfway through the year, he already has almost 800 yards. They have Brown catching things. He makes big-time catches when they need him. Looking at the other side, West Virginia also loves to run the ball. They have Green. He is mobile. He can throw it. He can run it. They have White. They have Clement. Kansas State, they average 31.3. They throw for 200. They run for 241, and they have a good defense, giving up 21 points a game. Their weakness is they give up almost 300 passing yards per game, but you can't run on them. They give up 71.7 rush yards. You can throw all over Kansas State, but you're not going to move the ball on the ground. West Virginia, they average 30.2. They throw for 222.7. They run for 215. They give up 26. This just seems like one of those games where West Virginia, who's much better than their 3-3 record, gets the upset. I have Kansas State winning a close one in the fourth quarter, taking this one 28-24. But this is one of those games that you also want to watch closely this week. The next matchup is the game of the weekend on ABC at 7:30. Number 5, Georgia Bulldogs, 5-1. Versus number 1, Texas Longhorns, 6-0. Right now, Texas has a 76.2% chance to win this game. 5-point favorites. That spread is actually moving up throughout the week. The over-under here is 56.5. No one's giving Georgia any chance to win this game. Georgia comes in, they average 33.5. They throw for 326.2. They can move the ball through the air with Beck, but it's the running game, only 134 rushing yards per game. That's not going to cut it. Georgia's strength used to be the offensive line, the running game. They've gotten away from that this season. They need to rebound, get back to establishing the run, which is going to open up play action. They got to get that number up to about 170 to 190 per game. And their defense is good, but un-Kirby Smart, like usually they're sub 15, but right now they're giving up 17.2. They have Beck, they have Etienne, they have Smith. Get a running back. Your leading running back is on pace now for less than 700 yards. That's not going to cut it in SEC conference play. Texas, they are rolling. Top 10 offense, top 10 defense. They average 43.2. They throw for 311.3. They run for 189. And an elite defense giving up 6.3 points per game. Less than 250 yards given up per game. They are loaded. Manning, Ewers, they have Wisner. Bond should play this game. Lots of weapons. I have Texas winning this game and it never being in doubt, just like the Bama game last season. Texas cruises early, throwing bombs first quarter. They win it 34-23. The next game we're going to be looking at is the front runner for the Big 12 at 7:30 p.m. on Fox Sports. UCF, who's completely fallen off the rails this season. They'll be playing number 9 Iowa State, undefeated right now, 6-0. Right now, you have UCF. They have Gus Malzahn. They've been shuffling quarterbacks. It's probably not going to be KJ Jefferson starting this game. They average 30.7 points a game. They throw for 223.8. They run for 268. One of the best rushing teams in the nation, but they have issues in the red zone with turnovers and with punching the ball in for a touchdown, and they're giving up 23.7 points a game. They have R.J. Harvey, a top 10 running back, closing in on 700 yards, but he cannot fully carry this team. Someone else has to step up. They have Hudson catching things. For Iowa State, this is a Matt Campbell team. They are physical, they are well coached, and they play defense. Right now, Beck closing in on 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 3 picks. They're averaging 30.7. They throw for 254. They run for 174.3. They're only giving up 11 points per game. At some point, they are due to potentially lose one. Could be this weekend, but I have them seizing this game. They're so physical. They win this one 27-17. And our final game that we're going to look at, number 21 SMU coming into this game at 5-1. They'll be playing at Stanford, who is 2-4. This game is going to be at 8 p.m. on the ACC network. SMU is the favorite here, 16.5-point favorite. The over-under is 53.5. There's going to be some points here because SMU, they can move the ball. They play solid defense. They come into this game, they're averaging 40.8 points per game. They are a potential dark horse to make the ACC championship. Their schedule is not bad this season. They throw for 233.5. They run for 203, and their defense is giving up 22.3. Stone steps down. Jennings steps in. He can throw it. He can run it. They have Rashard Smith, the transfer from Miami, closing on 600 rushing yards. They have R.J. Maryland. Looking at Stanford, they average 20.3 points a game. They throw for 186. They run for 149.7. One of the worst offenses in the country, complemented by one of the worst defenses. They're giving up 30.8 points per game. Their issue has been turnovers. Whenever they get a touchdown, They turn one over. Daniels closing in on 800 yards. He's also the leading rusher. They have to develop some type of run game. They have to develop some type of passing game. And they're just not going to be able to keep up. They don't have the firepower to match the Mustangs. I have SMU winning this one 37-20. So that's our quick fire, all of our top 25 picks and predictions. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. If you have any comments, drop it below, and I will respond. Thank you, guys.